Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And we have an exciting guest who's on here today. I'm so feel so honored that I have a two-time Emmy nominee to be on my show today. But his name is Mr. Eternal Polk, and he's actually a director, a writer, and a segment producer. And he has this wonderful film that's out called Gaining Ground, The Fight for Black Land. It's at is it still at the Pan African Film Festival?
We had our last screening on Tuesday, so it's
Okay,
not there. It's there, but with no more
right.
screenings.
Okay, so, well, hopefully we'll be seeing it in the theater soon, or at least streaming. But I saw it, and it was a fabulous, fabulous piece. It's very moving. It hits all the emotions. And when you look at our history of what we've been through as a people of losing land, to see someone today, such as Eternal, and actually Al Roker, they both executive produced this documentary film. I would encourage everyone when it comes out to see it. Definitely, if you're a person who has a family that owns land, or if you're interested in purchasing land, it's definitely something that you need to see. But what I also want to let you know, are you originally from New York?
I am not. I'm originally from the east side of Indianapolis, and you know what's funny is I ran into a New Yorker at the DGA. We just had a DGA brunch, and I said, "I need you to settle this for me because somebody who will not go named, and I hope she's looking at this live. She posted on IG a question where she said, if you weren't born from New York, you're not a New Yorker." And I said, I'm from the east side of Indianapolis, but I'm a New Yorker because I was there for 27 years and I had two children there. I think I can claim
Exactly.
New York. I think I can claim New York at this
Yeah,
point.
I think you can
But
too.
but I'm from but to be clear, I am from the east side of Indianapolis, and I will claim the east side of Indianapolis all day, every day. And I was in New York for 27 years, and now I'm in Charlotte.
Wonderful. Now you're in the South.
Yes,
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. You attended Tisch School of the Arts.
yes, NYU.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, and you studied film. You studied film there, I take it, obviously.
Yes. Hmm.
So how long have you been in the industry?
Oh man, you know, almost immediately after I got to New York, I met um, someone who was a producer and wound up working for that production company as a
Oh,
PA, and then working on those productions. So if I count that, it's wow, 31 years.
wow. Okay.
31 years,
So
yes.
you definitely have paid your dues.
Oh, dudes get
And
paid, but I don't know about the bills.
right,
Yes, definitely
right,
pay dues. Definitely pay dues, but it's a
right.
journey.
Oh,
It's a journey. No overnight sensation is overnight.
no, no, because even when it seems like it to the public, most people have been putting in their labor for years, for years.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, and I read in your resume that you've actually, or in your bio rather, that you've done work for HBO, the NFL, ESPN, music videos, branding, commercials, and you've done it all pretty much.
Yeah. Fortunately, I've been able to do work that's kind of scanned a large section of the filmmaking world. I'm just waiting to do my narrative feature now or my TV show. I've basically done everything else. I mean, I've done shows that have been on TV, but not like sort of nonfiction, I mean, fictional narrative
Right.
TV shows. So that's the two things I have left to do. narrative TV and narrative feature film.
Narrative TV and narrative feature film. Well, that is wonderful to know. So let's get into about this documentary.
Hmm.
How did it all come about?
Well, the long and short of it is that one of my former colleagues who worked at NFL Films, her name is Denise Hurst Green. She is currently at Al Roker Entertainment,
Okay.
and she heard about the program, the LEAP program that John Deere put together to help landowners get clear title to their land to help prevent the issue of heirs property or to fight it off. And so she saw the LEAP Coalition article on the LEAP Coalition or a video, I'm not sure,
Mhm.
but she heard about it and she reached out to them and she said, "Hey, you got a story on your hands," and I pitched them a couple ideas, and they decided to go with a documentary. Um, I heard about the project from her, and but they already were engaging another director to do
Mhm.
it, and that didn't and that didn't
Yeah.
pan out. And then after me sort of dropping not so subtle hints for about 5 months that I would love to direct this, I got the
Mhm.
phone call to uh, to ask if I wanted to direct the piece. But I had been dropping hints for like 5 months, so
Right.
they knew I wanted to do it. They knew I wanted to do the piece.
Wow. So it worked out to your advantage that that they didn't go with the other person.
Well, it's sometimes when you hear the phrase "what's yours is yours." Um,
Absolutely.
you know, I I I heard about it, and I just made sure um that my interest in it was known.
Right.
And, I had no idea that I would get it. I didn't, I wasn't even thinking about getting it. I knew they had someone else, and I figured it was just a matter of time before they worked that stuff out. I just let it be known that I would have loved to directed it. I think it's a great story. You know,
Uh-huh.
I don't know whether or not I can't imagine another director doing after having done
I
it. But
can't.
of course,
Yeah.
another
I can't.
director could have done it. It's a great
Right.
story, and I'm sure they would have done a great job. But
Right.
as these things are,
Right.
sometimes things that are yours, are yours, and
Right.
there's no impeding that from happening.
Right. So, when you were making this documentary, what was the thing that stood out to you the most? Because was it five families that you follow?
Um, I follow three families.
Okay.
The the Eli's, the
House.
Haneys,
Yeah.
and the House family who Mark actually works for John Deere. And
Oh.
so I was able to get some time with those families and discuss the issue.
So, so how did you all just specifically chose those families, or they just kind of like somebody knew, or how did that come out? How did you go by picking those particular group of families?
Well, we did have, let me see, we did have some help from John Deere because they knew so many people who were involved in the
The
Leap
lead.
Coalition, and
Oh,
who were actually people who used the Leap Coalition and used the Federation of Southern Cooperatives and these organizations for help. So they knew of different families, and we interviewed um, a few of them, and then we kind of picked the ones that fit our story, what we were trying to tell.
hmm.
We had a limited amount of time.
Right.
Traditionally, documentaries could be 3 years, could be 4 years, could be 5 years. Um, you know, Genius, the Kanye documentary, was 20 years of them following Kanye and gathering footage. So documentaries can take a very long time to come to
Right.
the light of day. We just didn't have that many production days, and we didn't have that much time to just follow a number of families and then figure out what the story was. I kind of had
Right.
to approach it that this is the story I want to tell about this particular subject
Right.
matter, and
Right.
these are my characters, so to speak, in the telling of
Right.
the story. And
Right.
so we found the families and the people who were charismatic and could communicate the
Mm-hmm.
issue and their particular issue, and who were good on camera, and
Mm-hmm.
you know. So we went
Mm-hmm.
about it like that. That was an assist from John Deere, and
Mm-hmm.
the other people in it, like the supporting cast, so to speak, like
Mm-hmm.
uh, Dr. Danita Mixon Hogan, who's a historian,
Yes.
Thomas Mitchell, who's a lawyer, uh,
Yes.
Shirley Sherrod.
Oh.
You know, we
Mm-hmm.
we we found Shirley was the one person that was like, I definitely want to have her, and
Oh,
then we
most
found the other
definitely.
people by research and then reaching out, and like we interviewed like four historians,
Mm-hmm.
and then we got to two that we thought could could carry the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was a matter of scheduling. So
Right.
one historian we wanted to talk to as well, we just couldn't, and then the historian we did wind up with, Dr. Hogan's, Mason Hogan's. Um, she was in New York. We were in New York, and
Okay.
it coincided. So
It
it was some of
worked out.
that going on
Right.
too. Yeah.
So, um, because the House family, they were based in Texas, right? Am I correct?
Yes. hmm
They were in Texas. So how many states did you cover, or was it like everybody was just kind of close by? So when, distance wise travel.
Um, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas,
Oh, wow.
Texas, New York. Did I say Arkansas?
I don't think so. You said Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, New York, and I
South,
guess, yeah,
South Carolina, Louisiana, and Arkansas.
South.
So yeah, we were in about 8 states, and then I was I live in North Carolina, and we
Mhm.
tried to film in North Carolina too, but we couldn't. We just couldn't um, work it out. So yeah, we were all over the South, and
Wow.
but also I was in Florida when I went, to go talk to people.
Right.
I didn't just
Right.
talk to them on Zoom. I went to actually visit folks when I
Mm.
could. And so
Mhm.
I wanted to have familiarity with them, their story, and the place that they
Mhm.
live. And so I was
Mhm.
able to do that with a few people. So I actually traveled to other states. Were we in Mississippi? I was in Mississippi
Mhm.
after that for another project, but we
Really?
were all over the South, and then we dipped up to New York. And Natalie Bazille, who is the writer of Queen Sugar. She
Oh.
was in she was in New York, and
Mhm.
Danita was coming to New York, and then Karen was in New York. So it was kind of like everything just sort of worked out for us to
Right.
get those people.
Wow. So, in your research, where did you find what state where African Americans own the most land? Or do you?
Now that I don't know. That I
Uh-huh.
don't know. I know
Mhm.
that a lot of the land, the southeast is where most of the land that we're talking about resides.
Mhm.
Um, Texas, Texas, Georgia,
Mhm.
Mississippi, Alabama,
Mhm.
some with Florida, South Carolina,
Mhm.
North Carolina.
Right.
Um, those are where a lot of that southeast, and I'm including Texas in there, even though it's Midwest. Um, yeah, that's where a lot of the land ownership was. Only because that's where most of the formerly enslaved folks were. Black folks were in those areas and moved out to different locations, but most of it was in the southeast.
Now, was that land, the land that most of these people own, was that land that was left to them after slavery was over from the slave master? Oh, okay.
Oh well, there are different
Scenario.
iterations, there are different scenarios. Like for instance, my family, I just found out recently, the slave master um, left a, a church and a plot of land to the family. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and there were some instances of that, but there were
Mm-hmm.
other instances where the owners of the land couldn't afford the taxes that they had to pay, so they had to, they had to sell it or they had to give it to someone else, and that's where some black folks got land, was from the land that the former enslavers could not afford without free labor.
Right.
So there were
Right.
some that bought their land
Right.
outright. Um,
Right.
the the Eli family was in the film. Their family was able to get land with a tenant purchase loan from the USDA. So there were different ways that people got land. Most people were thinking outside of slavery because if you think about it, the whole economy was based on land. So most of those people knew that land was valuable for growing crops, for living on, and also you never knew what was on your land in terms of underground. And
The mineral.
there were definitely black um folks who had oil wells in addition.
Yeah.
So
Yes, that's true.
and I didn't know that until I started doing the
Yeah.
research and looking at the footage. But yeah, there were definitely black folks with oil wells. So just different ways that people got land. Um,
Uh-huh.
it wasn't just like
Mhm.
slave owners like here
Right.
was nice and benevolent. And most of those agreements were sharecropping or some form
Mhm.
of that, where the white owners were still benefiting from the land because they were quote unquote letting the formerly enslaved folks farm the land
Mhm.
and pay off the land. So they were still benefiting from it, the pay and the crops. So,
Right. That was my family's from Mississippi on my mother's side, and they picked cotton. They were sharecroppers. So yeah, most definitely.
yeah.
Um, uh, with that being said in all of its entirety, back in 1920s, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember, African Americans owned about 19 million acres of land, right? And so now it's what is it 2% or less than 2% of
Well,
land?
it went down to a low of 2 million acres from
2 million.
a
Okay,
high
2
of
million.
it was about 19, 20 million, and it went to a low of two, and it's crept up a little bit over the last, I want to say, 6, 7 years. But it was down to as low as 2 million acres of land. And the black folks are now intentionally and purposefully moving back down south for a variety of
Mm-hmm.
reasons and are buying land. But,
Mm-hmm.
the percentage lost was about 90% of the land that
Wow.
was owned back right outside of the end of slavery, which is
Mhm.
phenomenal if you think about it.
Right.
That
Right.
black folks were able to get that much land at that time, and
Right.
and we have a lot of resources and a lot of things, and we
Yes.
still are far behind. Think about it, we're way further behind as we are in 2024 than our ancestors were right outside of slavery.
I
Now that,
try to, you listen, I try to tell people that they don't like hearing, but it's true. And it's very true. And even though, I mean, we may have become more educated, we may have gained some material things, but in terms of ownership, nah, nowhere
Right.
near.
Right.
Nowhere. If you
And
look at like, oh, okay. If you look at like Rosewood, or even in California, there's a town called Allensworth. And years ago, when I first kind of like moved out here, I took a trip with some people from church, and it was a black-owned town. I mean, and it's still, now it's a tourist thing. The last time I checked, it's a tourist thing. But it was these people had established a town. So when you go back to historic, and like you have, of course, now everybody's talking about Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, and Rosewood, and just it can go on and on and on. It's I hear from my mother all the time. She says Black people back then, they had businesses. They have even though they were going through what they're going through, the mindset was totally different. It was about ownership and having your own, because they had no other choice but to deal with one another. So, but by it being that way, they really came up. And now it's so different to see where it is today. So now that you have this documentary out, what is like the next thing? You guys obviously searching for a distribution deal.
yeah, I heard, I get updates here and there that
Uh,
there's something happening. I don't know exactly what. I'm hoping that it'll happen, and it's soon, because people need to see the film, not just because it's mine, but the fact of the matter is, every time someone does see the film, I get questions about the resources, or we get a story about how this happened to
right,
them, or they may be going through it currently.
right,
So, I think it'll be very helpful for people to see it, know that there are other people out there going through it, know some of the issues, but also know some of the solutions and the way you can make money off of the land. Um, and hopefully that'll get people thinking like, oh wow, like I
right,
can make I can make money being a farmer or growing, different crops. And there's some things like we mentioned in the film that 1 acre of garlic can get you about $40,000, and
wow,
that's just 1 acre.
wow,
Garlic
wow.
ain't going nowhere. People gonna love garlic from the end of time.
True.
So yeah, so we got that. And truffles are 850 a pound, $850 a pound. So if you add that up, 5 acres will give you about I think half a mil, close, something like that. Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy when you start thinking about
Right,
um, what you can do. And then, there's
right,
other things, like if you don't want to farm there, you can lease your land, other people can farm it. You can get, money not to do something with your land if it's in a conservation program, depending on
right.
if that's available. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
there's ways to make money off the
It's tons
land.
of things. It's tons of things you can do. What I want to ask you about the gentleman who was responsible beekeeping. He was a beekeeper.
Yes.
I liked him, and I love what he was saying because it was very true from a way back ancient times. The Egyptians, when that was inserted in the film, I was just like, oh, because I'm really into archaeological, ancient Egypt, Africa. I love that kind of stuff, studying, where we came from and all that.
Right.
And so, um, I was surprised that he was in there. Now, where was he from? Because he had an accent. Was he
Yes.
Jamaican or?
Yes. He's
Oh,
he's
okay.
Jamaican.
He's
He's
Jamaican.
Jamaican. And
Yeah.
and he was great. He was great. Now
Okay, wait a minute. You froze. Oh, it's buffering. Don't go. I'm still here.
okay,
Okay.
I'm still here.
Okay. Go ahead.
We good?
Yeah, we good.
Yeah, I was saying, you notice he didn't have the full beekeeping outfit on. He
Yeah,
was handling that whole thing with his hands. He, he
he was.
and, and he only put that mask on because of us. He usually doesn't even deal with that. He just goes over there and handles the bees. So, yeah, he's just that guy. Last time I was
Well,
there, he gave me some honey. He gave me some honey from that hive last time I was there.
wow. Well, historically, the pygmies over, like in the Congo, they are very big on honey and bees. It's like how that guy was. That's what made me.
Mhm.
They don't even flinch. I guess they've gotten so. If they ever gotten stung by a bee, they've gotten used to it because they weren't. They eat it, the cone and everything, and it's like I've never seen honey so orangey and yellow. But this is the straight up real deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's in our culture. And Ethiopia is a huge producing nation of honey. They're like number 5, I believe, in the world.
Mhm.
They're between I think 5 and maybe 10 producers of honey. A
Mhm.
lot of people don't know that. So I personally believe that Akibulan, Africa, is the true mother promised land. So, I was very impressed with him being in the film. I just
Yeah.
love what he brought, because it's true. A lot of he was teaching us the history and to get into it, because a lot of young people, I've heard stories about people who come from families with like hundreds of acres, and the children have no interest in it because they grew up in Chicago or New York. They don't want to go back down south. But like you just said, even if they didn't, they can hire somebody to look at the land. And to me, I think, and I grew up in the city all my life, but as I have gotten older, I have appreciation for that, country life, even though I live in the city. But I get excited when I see crops, because I
Mhm.
understand if you own land, you're wealthy. If you own land, you are wealthy, because you are in a position where you can, like you said, make money. You're not reliant on the grocery store. You can grow your food. You can do that too if you have, a backyard. But when you own land, it's so much that you can do. And so I just think it's just wonderful. What I'm going to do now is, for those of you who have any questions regarding the documentary or about land, we have Eterna here, who's willing to answer the questions, and you can just ask him directly whatever he knows he's willing to share. So, does anyone have any question?
Let's see. I see a couple of my people in here.
I know one. Let me see. Let me go. Hey, Dion. Oh, Dion says, okay. Manifest. Bruce, brother. Oh, okay. Somebody saying brother. Someone made a comment that says it is amazing film. I agree. Very informative. C Nash. She says it is an amazing film. Very informative. So proud of my brother. Happy early birthday. This is your sister?
That's one of my homies, my old school homies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Let's see. Is Debbie? Let's see. Is she in here? She was in here earlier. Oh, I see her. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Don't be afraid. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody's trying to. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know. He's here. Now's a chance. Um, would I've heard stories. There was this one young lady I used to work with, and on each side of the family, one side of the family, and she was from Texas, literally owned 30 oil wells. And yeah, but get this, the story gets even interesting. So it was like on her father's side, and it was like his sisters, and well, actually, I think it was like the aunts or something. Then on her mother's side, they own like just as many. The interesting thing is that, because, and this, when you, the heir's property, That's if you can explain that, because what happened is in one case, one side of the family was getting a check that was a little bit more than the other. So you know what they did? They decided to cap the oil wells.
I don't get that.
I don't get that either. When she told me that, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah, that doesn't even make sense. So how does heirs property, because in the film it says if somebody, like if you have a family of 2 or 5 or 10 and siblings and someone wants to sell, then when somebody else from the outside comes in, it does it make does it force the whole sale of the land? Do they have to sell the whole land? How does that work?
So, well, heirs property comes in. We don't have clear title
Clear
uh,
title.
for your land. So when I when I interviewed one family, I think on the edge of like South Georgia, tip of Florida, the top of Florida, their father was smart enough to he split the land up and gave them each they each got a title for their portion of the land. So they
Right,
good. You know, if one of
right,
those people, one of the family members wanted to sell their piece of land, they have a
right,
title for it,
right,
and and they can sell it and no problem, doesn't affect the other people.
right.
Now the problem comes if that same family and the father has said, okay, I'm gonna divide this land up and you get this point, this plot, you get this plot, and they never had a title, then they all own all of that land together. Like it doesn't
Oh, okay.
really
So,
matter. It doesn't matter that the father picked parts of the property and said you own this and you own that, because if they don't have a clear title, right? If the title was kind of left when he passed, then it's owned by all of them now, right?
oh, okay.
In terms of the law, the land is owned by all of the heirs, and now, of course, they can go to court and kind of, argue that, their father left this land, and I don't know how that would turn out because I'm not a lawyer. But what I can say is that that land is legally all of their land, and if one of them were to sell in that situation, then the person who bought that land, that portion of the land, or that interest, because it's not even
Mhm.
when it's in this situation, it's called an interest and not like a portion.
Right.
You all have an interest in the land. So if a person sells their interest in the property, thinking that, oh, this is my little plot of land, I can
Right.
sell it if I want. No, because the law doesn't recognize somebody just saying you got a plot of land. It recognizes there's a title or not, land or not. Um, so that person who bought the land or the interest can sue the rest of the family members. So essentially, no title. And if your land is not in like a LLC or a land trust, then
Mhm.
it's in jeopardy. It could be a piece that they find someone. Now we're talking, generations, right? There's
Mhm.
They could find someone who lives in Minnesota who's one of 300 people who have an interest in that property because it doesn't have a clear title. So all the heirs who can have an interest in that title, they can find somebody in Minnesota that never heard about it, cut them a check and say, here, you got some land in Alabama or Mississippi, and I'm sure you don't know anything about it, but here's $15,000 or however much, and they take it. That person can then go to court, file a lawsuit to get everybody else off the land or to sell everybody's interest. And then usually what happens is um, people don't have money to pay for the lawyer, or they
They
don't have
lose
money to
them.
pay for the lawyer. But also when it does go through this process, even a best case scenario is you go to this process and then you get to buy your own land back. That's the best. That's one of the best case scenarios, is that you actually have to wind up buying your land back if it goes through this heirs property process. The super best scenario is that it never goes into heirs property to begin with.
Right.
It never gets to the point of being sold or being put up for sale, because you have all of that taken care of, and it is a clear title, or it's an LLC, or it's a land trust.
So land in the LLC, that's a new one. I never heard of land being put in the LLC. How, I mean,
Well,
what is, I mean,
it's
is that like a
basically,
company?
yeah, basically you're saying the company, like if you have a lot of people have done it, especially where I saw it was in New York, where the owner of, you create an LLC and the owner of the property is the LLC.
Right. Right.
So, that kind of separates an owner in a sense from the land. So if you buy a property and for whatever reason there's foreclosure, that foreclosure is going to go on the company, but not you per se. And don't quote me on the specificity of that, because there's a lot of ins and outs about responsibility and what you owe. But more or less, an LLC or a trust allow that property to be kind of managed in a way where it is a business. And then if the property makes money, everybody who has an interest in that business, meaning their descendants or heirs for that property, then you can say, hey, look, we made $60,000. Each of us gets $5,000, or however much it is, for how many different heirs that you have. But it's important to get the clear title so that you can apply for loans, you can qualify for different programs that help you take care of the farm or the land, because it's not necessarily a farm, sometimes it's just rural land. And so, yeah, that clear title is important.
Right. Okay. So Debbie, do you want to come in the room and ask your question directly to him? I tried sending you the, hold on for a second. Okay, there you are. Just click on it and then you can ask him. If not, I'll ask him. But let me see. She was asking, on selling garlic, what can you do for connection on how? Is it just for the South, or can you do it in California? Also, crops. Can you grow crops? And
Well, see, it's more, once I got into this, I learned so much. A lot of it is, soil composition, water runoff, what is your available light? What is the temperature conditions? So certain things are going to grow better, fare better in different climates, different situation, different soil, different water amounts. So you really just got to see where you're at and what crops will be manageable in that geography. So yeah, I think there's so many resources out there. I mean, there's so many Facebook groups with Black farmers. And
yes, this is true.
If you go on IG, YouTube, it's a lot of information on out there.
It's a whole community of gardeners.
But it's definitely a whole community of Black farmers and growers, from small produce to row crop farmers. So there's a lot of information out there.
Wow. A good question is, what is like in today's market time, like somewhere in Georgia, or what is like for an acre? How much can an acre of land go minimum?
Well, I'm gonna put you up on a little game, because now, for instance, with this particular property, right?
Mm-hmm.
Heirs property. A lot of times that
Mm-hmm.
goes to an auction.
Oh.
And
Oh.
so you can get land
Bid.
by, yes. There's also government sites that get land and they decommission the site for use and then they sell the land. You can also go online and just say, like, plots of land for sale in Georgia. And there
Mm-hmm.
are sites that do that. So the prices vary. You know, some of the things are conditions where they're close to, like, is it close to a factory? If it's close to, you know,
Or
some,
timber.
yeah. So there's so many different things.
Uh-huh.
But just to give you an example of what can happen with this land and how much it can cost and whatnot, I have a colleague, friend, who did a report on this for Vice, and in his segment, they went to an auction, and it was 18 acres of land. Now the auction, now I don't know how they promoted this auction, but it was only one person in the auction, and that one person was connected to the person who bought an interest in the land and then used heirs property to force the sale of all of the land. And the people could not buy their own land. They couldn't, deal. I don't know if they got a lawyer pro bono, but they lost.
Right.
Land went to auction. 18 acres sold. Now, I want you to take a guess. How much did 18 acres get sold for in an auction?
When you say an auction and it's 18 acres, you threw the auction in. I mean, it could have went for $1. I'm just saying. Maybe what, 200, maybe?
No, it actually was more. It was
Okay.
it was 2,500.
That's it for 18 acres?
18 acres of land. Do you know how big 18 acres of land is?
Acres?
For
Yeah.
18 acres of land, you could put um about four little subdivisions in 18. So a nice, decent size. I've seen 5 acres turned into multiple homes in Charlotte. So with almost 20 acres, you could do quite a bit in terms of putting homes on there. So if you imagine somebody having some land and they said it's worth 2,500 based on the sale of it, right?
Mm.
But then you put one house. If you sell one house on that 18 acres, and you pay 2,500 for it, the land, and just after your costs, you know how negligible $2,500 is when you're building a house. $2,500 ain't nothing. You
Sure.
waste $2,500 if you build a house. But if you build one house, you can sell one house for $400,000, 300,
Wow.
$400,000. If you put two
Wow.
houses, then imagine if you on 20 acres of land, how many
Right.
houses you could put on that, and you only paid $2,500 for it.
Right. Right. That's
So,
that's insane.
so
That's crazy. That's good though.
this is why this thing is important
Right.
to know about, because people, let's just say, there was a time that if I had known about 18 acres for $2,500, I could have gotten like that. I
Yeah.
would have come off and said, hey, if I had $2,501, I would go spend 2,500 to get 18 acres of land.
Oh yeah, because that 2,500 is more like, if you think about it, is, and
Well,
depending on, it could be 2.5 million if you know what to do with
I
the
was about
land.
to say,
You know.
once they assess the value of the land, you're going to get more than $2,500, and
Yeah.
that's just assessing the value. If you took out a line of credit on the based on the value of the property, come on, like you said, 18 acres of land is definitely not going for $2,500, like on the
No.
open
No,
market.
Not at all. And
You might
because I,
be able to go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. No, I'm because I had looked into looking at land in different areas, and I know that no, that's unheard of. Basically, for 18 acres. Oh
Yes,
yeah, that's
it's crazy, right?
that.
That's the kind of stuff happening out here, and worse.
Wow. And where was this land located at?
I want to say South Carolina. I have to look at
South Carolina.
the segment, but I want to say South Carolina.
I have a friend that's down in South Carolina. In fact, I tried to invite her. I don't know if she could be at work and all. Well, Eternal, I sure appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us. And hopefully, maybe when you can come back again when you start working on your other projects.
Yeah.
It's this. I love that film. It touched. It went places emotionally for me.
What was your favorite part?
What was my favorite part? I love Miss Shirley.
Yes.
See, I call her Miss Shirley. Shirley Shira. I remember her name. And the beekeeper, because
Yeah.
he took it back to the history, and I just loved him. I was really moved. I love the fact that the House family, that was his great grandfather, they didn't let they didn't let they didn't let those folks come and take their land. It was ready because they were armed, and it's so sad to think that a lot of our people fled. They abandoned the land because they were being traumatized. They were being harassed, so they had to flee. And it was very emotional. I mean, I was literally trying to just like not shed some tears, but I was angry because you know just coming out of slavery, and you still being taunted. You still, it's like the devil's still riding your back, and you just trying to have a life for you and your family. And no matter, to say that we're lazy people is the biggest lie, because we built towns. First of all, we built a nation for free. And to know the circumstances that they came out of, and they were still able to prosper. They still prospered.
Hmm.
After all of that, they were able to prosper. And so, I was angry, and yet I was moved. I even enjoyed both historians, the two ladies, the lady with the red top, she was sitting there outside telling the story. And
Hmm.
the lady, I think she's Dr. Brazil, is it Brazil?
Oh,
What's
that's that
with the
woman.
glasses?
That's Natalie Brazil.
Yeah, Natalie was.
She's the writer of Queen Sugar.
Really, I
Yes.
enjoyed her.
Yes.
I enjoy her. I felt like she really gave, I don't know, like a history lesson. I enjoyed her, and
Hmm.
everybody. It was so well put together, and I want to see it again. That's why I've been telling people that I know who own land, and they own a
Yeah.
lot of land, and people who just even may own property, period, in general. I just feel like it's a film that we need to get behind and support. And with that being said, I'm
Thank
not
you.
going to take out your time, because I know they're going to be shutting. Instagram has a timer; it starts shutting you down
All
when you go on for a
right.
while. But I sure do appreciate you coming on, and thank you for
Hmm.
everyone who's tuned in today, this afternoon. And hopefully we'll be able to bring you back again for maybe your next project, or if you want to continue to carry the discussion on land. Hey, I'm for it. So.
Okay.
And maybe the attorney can come on, and then people who have that questions, they can ask him all the legalities. Maybe that could be something
Oh,
to do.
sorry. Excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's we're so just so you know, I think if you're in North Carolina,
Okay.
February 23rd, we'll be screening the film with the Haiti Heritage Center
Okay.
in Durham, Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. And then the end of March 21st, 22nd, we'll be at Boston College, and I will be with Thomas Mitchell. He's having the event at Boston College. So we got a couple
Okay.
screenings coming up. We finished the festival circuit, and so now we have some private screening situations happening, and so those are the next two that I know of. There might be another one in there somewhere, but I can't recall it right now.
Okay, that's cool. Did you guys was it nominated for Image Awards? Did you guys
No,
know?
no,
I don't think.
I don't. I don't know what happened there.
Wow.
I don't know what happened there. I don't know
Yeah,
if we.
okay.
I don't know if we were submitted. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know how that works. I don't know how
Have
that
you ever
works. Maybe.
attended?
Well,
Have you
maybe
ever
it'll be
attended the?
submitted for NAACP Image Award next year.
Yes,
So
yes, yes, yes. I plan to go this year, but because I was thinking, like, I don't remember seeing the nominations,
mm-mm.
for it. But well, cool. Well, awesome. Thank you again. And until next time, first of all, thank you for coming into the room. And until next time, you take care, and I'll be talking to you. Peace.
All right. Peace.
Bye bye.